Okay, so for these next 3 weeks, the topic will be taming tension, and for today, so nasty. For today, we're gonna start with rejecting pride. Why did I put rejection? Rejecting pride. Sorry. And one of the main verses that the author put with the title was 1 Peter 5:5, which is God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. So we're gonna kind of dive in deeper to what all of that means. So I'm sorry. No. Anyways, can you go to the next slide, please? Sorry. Thank you. So the breakdown for the next 3 weeks is today with rejecting pride, and then resolving conflict, and then releasing your tension. And then for the beginning, to start off talking about pride, I feel like it's always kind of important to give off the definition. So for the word pride itself, Sir Google says, a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. And I forgot that I still had my mask on, sorry. Sorry, so from one's achievement, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated with. So it's feeling pride for your own things, but also some people will feel pride about like others' achievements or like the good things that other people have achieved or like their successes. But with this one, we're specifically going to talk about being prideful, which means having an excessively high opinion of oneself. So I mean, it kind of already sounds bad, having that prideful attitude, putting yourself like high up on a pedestal, like you yourself, instead of like having others. So this not being like a positive attitude, so it's something that God does oppose of, how it says in 1 Peter. And he looks good on the ones that are humble. So 4 things. My phone keeps turning off. Did he do it? Oh. So 3 things. It was like 4, but I kind of put 2 together. What pride does is that you cannot have a close relationship with God. And kind of side by side with that is that it blinds from God's greatness. And then it promotes self-reliance, and then it brings expectations. So this is just kind of broad because I just wanted to put the top 3 topics up there and then talk about them one by one. So the first ones we're going to talk about is you cannot have a close relationship with God, and that it blinds from his greatness. So the reason that it goes together is because I'll start off with reading, I'll make this bigger. I'm going to start off with reading Psalms 10:4, which is, in his pride, the wicked man does not seek him. In all his thoughts, there is no room for God. So having a relationship with God, or just like having a relationship with anybody, it takes that time, and it takes, with God, it takes knowing that, he's the greater one that you need to like submit to. So for a prideful person, for, this one, I like this version because it says that there is no room for God. The other ones kind of say kind of the same thing, but this one shows like a simpler version of that there's no thoughts about him, or like even if there are thoughts about God, they're not as as great as he should be. So like it kind of makes him small. So one of the points that I put was when pride has taken over, the greatness of God diminishes in their eyes. So they kind of think, oh, like I did this, like I can keep on doing it. And so God's greatness kind of becomes smaller because, they start to think like they did it with their own strength and like they did it themselves. And a relationship with God cannot grow or even happen with those thoughts because, that relationship takes intimacy and kind of knowing who he is. And we know that like he is somebody greater and he is our creator, somebody we need to look up to and kind of submit to. So that relationship can't work out that way if we don't know who he is in the relationship. And so for them, there's no room for God, only for their successes and their greatness. So just like I always said, like there's no thoughts of God in their like plans. They're just thinking like, I did this, I succeeded, so like I could do it again by myself. And some examples that I wanted to talk about in the Bible that she mentions in the book is the city of Tyre. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't look up how to pronounce it, so I'm gonna just pronounce it how I think it is. Tyre. It is what it is. So if they could put up Isaiah 23, she got it. So I'm gonna read the whole chapter for this one. It's not too long. So it says a prophecy against Tyre. It is Tyre. Tyre. T. Look at you. Well, you ships of Tarshish. I read these in my brain, so now that I'm saying them out loud, I realize I'm saying them wrong, so bear with me. Well, your ships at Tarshish, for Tyre is destroyed and left without house or harbor from the land of Cyprus. Word has come to them. Be silent, you people of the island, and you merchants of Sidon, whom the sea furs have enriched. One of the great waters came the grain of Shire. The harvest of Nile was the revenue of Tyre, and she became the marketplace of the nation. Be ashamed, Sidon, and you, fortress of sea, for the sea has spoken. I have neither been in labor nor given birth. I have neither reared sons nor brought up daughters. When word came to Egypt, they will be in anguish at the report of Tyre. Cross over to Tarshish. Well, you people of the island, is this your city of revelry? My gosh, I can't read. The old city, whose feet have taken her to settle in far-off lands, who planned this against Tyre, the bestowers of crowns, whose merchants are princes, whose traders are renowned in the earth. The Lord Almighty planned it to bring down her pride and all her splendor, and it humble all who are renowned on the earth. Till your day, as they do along the Nile, daughter Tarshish, for you no longer have a harbor. The Lord has stretched out his hand over the sea and made its kingdom tremble. He has given an order concerning Phoenicia, that her fortress be destroyed. He said, no more of your reveling virgin daughter Sidon, now crushed up, cross over to Cyprus, even there will find no rest. Where is she? Look at the land of Babylonian, these people that is now of no account. The Assyrians have made it a place of desert creatures. They raised up their siege towers. They stripped its fortress bare and turned it into ruin. And I'm going to stop there. I realized I should have stopped at 11. Sorry. You can go back to the slides. Anyways, so the main emphasis that I wanted to make was for verses 7 through 11, well, specifically 9, where it says, the Lord of heaven's armies have, and I realized I didn't give my version, sorry. The Lord of heaven's armies has done it to destroy your pride and bring low all earth's nobility. So I had to do like some reading on this certain chapter because it was still kind of confusing. Like a lot of words didn't make sense, or like kind of I understood parts of it, but I didn't understand the reason why all of this was happening to the city. But they were like a prosperous city, and they were like, and they had all of this stuff, like it was plentiful. And they were just like prideful, like they didn't give God the credit of everything that they had. So at the end of it, God had it destroyed, so he allowed it to be destroyed. So that was like the outcome of their pride, because they had gotten so much that eventually, God was like, you don't know, you're not gonna acknowledge me, so, I'm gonna have to humble you myself. And another example of that would be King Nebuchadnezzar, which I think I have to do. Yeah. In Daniel chapter 4. So with this one, am I going to read the whole thing? Yeah, can you put Daniel chapter 4? Thank you. I was debating whether I want to read this or not, but yeah, I am. So this one, just to give you guys like context of like, why or what it is that happened. So, 1 King 4:1, 2 King 4:1, 3 King 4:1, 4 King 4:2, 5 King 4:3, 6 King 4:4, 7 King 4:5, 8 King 4:6, 9 King 4:7, 10 King 4:8, 11 King 4:9, 12 King 4:10, 13 King 4:11, 14 King 4:12, 15 King 4:13, 16 King 4:14, 17 King 4:15, 18 King 4:16, 17 King 4:17, 18 King 4:18, 19 King 4:19, 20 King 4:20, 21 King 4:21, 22 King 4:22, 23 King 4:22, 24 King 4:22, 25 King 4:22, 26 King 4:22, 27 King 4:22, 28 King 4:22, 29 King 4:22, 30 King 4:22, 31 King 4:22, 32 King Can you put the NLT version? If you can. If not, it's fine. Thank you. All right. So King Nebuchadnezzar sent this message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. Peace and prosperity to you. Give me a minute. Sorry. I'm gonna... Okay, sorry. I want you all to know the miraculous signs and wonders the Most High God has performed for me. How great are his signs, how powerful his wonders. His kingdom will last forever, his rule through all generations. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was living in my place in comfort and prosperity. But one night I had a dream that frightened me. I saw visions that terrified me as I lay in my bed. So I issued an order calling in all the wise men of Babylon so they could tell me what my dream meant. When all the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers came in, I told them the dream, but they could not tell me what it meant. At last, Daniel came in, and I told him the dream. He was named Belteshazzar, after my God and the spirit of the holy gods in him. I said to him, Belteshazzar, chief of magicians, I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and that no mystery is too great for you to solve. Now tell them what my dream means. While I was laying in my bed, this is what I dreamt. I saw a large tree in the middle of the earth. The tree grew very tall and strong, reaching high into the heavens for all the world to see. It had green leaves, and it was loaded with fruit for all to eat. Wild animals lived in its shade, and birds nested in branches. All the world was fed from this tree. Then, as I lay there, dreaming, I saw a messenger, a holy one, coming down from the heaven. The messenger shouted, cut down the tree and lop off the branches, shake off its leaves and scatter its fruits. Chase the wild animals from its shade and the birds from its branches, but leave the stump and the roots in the ground, bound with a band of iron and bronze, and surrounded by tender grass. Now let it be drenched with the dew of heaven. And let him live with the wild animals among the plants of the field. For 7 periods of time, let him have the mind of a wild animal instead of the mind of a human. For this has been decreed by the messengers. It is commanded by the holy ones, so that everyone may know the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world. He gives them to anyone he chooses, even to the lowest of people. Belteshazzar, that was the dream I had. King Nebuchadnezzar had. King Nebuchadnezzar had. Now tell me what it means, for none of the wise men in my kingdom can do so. So can you tell me, because the spirit of the holy gods is in you? Upon hearing this, Daniel was overcome for a time, frightened by the meaning of the dream. Then the king said to him, Belteshazzar, don't be alarmed by the dream and what it means. Belteshazzar replied, I wish the events foreshadowed in this dream would happen to your enemies, my lord, and not to you. The dreams you saw were growing very tall and strong, reaching high into the heavens for all the world to see. It had fresh green leaves and was loaded with fruit for all to eat. Wild animals lived in its shade, and the birds nested in its branches. That tree, your majesty, is you, for you have grown strong and great. Your greatness reached up the heavens, and your rule to the end of the earth. Then you saw a messenger, a holy one, coming down from the heavens, saying, cut down the tree and destroy it, but leave the stump and the roots in the ground, bounded with a band of iron and bronze and surrounded by tender grass. Let him be drenched with the dew of heaven. Let him live with animals in the field 7 periods of time. This is what the dream means, your majesty, and what the Most High has declared will happen to my lord the king. You will be driven from human society, and you will live with the fields with the wild animals You will eat green grass like a cow, and you will be drenched with the dew of heaven. 7 periods of time will pass while you live this way, until you learn that the Most High rules over the kingdom of the world and gives them to anyone he chooses. But the stump and the roots of the tree were left in the ground. This means that you will receive your kingdom back again when you have learned that heaven rules. King Nebuchadnezzar, please accept my advice. Stop sinning and do what is right. Break from your wicked past and be merciful to the poor. Perhaps you will continue to prosper. And then you can stop there. Okay, so seeing what the dream was, and in the end right there, Daniel gives them advice, to like turn away and do what is right. But later in the chapter, what they had prophesied in the dream ended up happening, that he had lost his sanity, and that what they said that he was going to eat like a cow and all that ended up happening because he didn't listen. So, he didn't take that advice, and the dreadful dream was fulfilled. So, in the dream itself, it kind of explains how big that tree was and how prosperous it was and how it gave to a lot of people, and like it seemed like the greatest thing. So, that's how he saw himself, basically, like he kind of put himself up there. And so at the end of the day, God wasn't given all that credit, like that, God puts those people up there and that he gives them the kingdom. But, when some people are given that success, they kind of take all the credit on themselves and forget where they came from. That's funny. So these both examples fail to do one thing, which is important, which is to give credit to God. So in anything that we do or anything we're involved in, like, I don't know, like maybe you got to work. So knowing that like that strength comes from God and not from your own self. So as a human, we will have moments that we feel like we did it with all our strength, but that is not the case. So a lot of the times, like, let's say like in school, we're gonna think like, oh, I did that. Like I memorized the math, or like I did all the reading, but who's the one that lets you read, or who's the one that woke you up and all that stuff. So it kind of goes back to forgetting where, who lets you have all those things, because it's not all yourself. So like God can not have you wake up that day, or your eyesight could be gone, but he allows you to have those things, or he continues to take care of you as he does. And so he does not tolerate the pride that grew in these individuals and had to step in and humble them. So sometimes we learn the hard way, which kind of sucks, but there are times where like we won't see what we're doing, or like our attitude towards things. So God will kind of allow things to happen, so that way it kind of brings us down from that pedestal that we put ourselves up to. So that takes us into being humble, and like that's what he wants, the type of attitude for us to have in like the things that we do. And so the next thing we're talking about is being humble. So in 1 Corinthians 15:10, it says, by the grace, I think I typed that one in, my bad. By the grace of God, I am what I am, and by the grave of God, my bad, I think I messed that up. And his grace to me was not without effect. No, I worked harder than all of them, yet no, not I, by the grace of God that was with me. So Paul is talking about this, and like he acknowledges like what he has done before, but he knows that even though he's like reached all these things, that at the end of the day it was God's grace that allowed him to do these things. Because like most of the time, like sometimes I don't feel like worthy of being like up here, but it's God's grace that like allowed me to like be here. And I know like it's like something that like pastor has like preached about, like grace, and like last Sunday like this justification. But so God gives us that, so that way we can reach higher things in him, and always acknowledging that he lets us be here, because like we can't do it ourselves. And if it was up to ourselves, like I don't think like a lot of things that I've probably done, I don't think I would have done it without him, because that was one of my downfalls. So y'all know that we get these by lot. So it's gonna be personal. It's gonna resonate. So in like one of the biggest things that I talked about was school. So what I kind of like growing up, I kind of got like a big head for a lot of things. Like sometimes I think back and I'm like, oh, middle school was a breeze, and high school too. I was like, now we're chilling, like we're going. Like I didn't have to like struggle, but it didn't take. It took until like college for I think God allowed a lot of stuff to happen because I kind of got the big head where I was like, oh, like I can do it. Like it's the expectation that I put, and that's like one of the things that pride brings in. So, he allows certain things to happen, even though like it hurts or like it's like it seems pretty bad because like for the city, that whole city got destroyed, and then King Nebuchadnezzar had to went through those 7 periods of time, and at the end of the day, Nebuchadnezzar was able to see the grace of God, so that he was able to come back and acknowledge who God was. So like there's, the contrast between those two, where like we're able to see God's grace and like His mercy towards us. So one of the next things is the expectations, which you said it switched. Is that when people have constantly done good things in their lives, they expect to succeed as they have done in the past. So for me, like I felt like going into college, it was like meant for me, or like I was gonna be fine, like I was gonna do good in the classes. She was gonna do it, but there was a lot of things that went into it where a lot of stuff happened, but it didn't come as easy as I thought it was. Like the first semester was terrible, and I hated going to school. Like it was to the point where like I didn't want to do anything anymore, and like I didn't entirely hate school, and I didn't like it in high school. I was just doing it to do it, but I didn't have to study most of the time. Like for math, like just doing the stuff in class or like the homework, it was like fine. Once the test came in, I was chilling. I didn't have to struggle. And so then I was thinking like, oh, in college, like I just gotta read, or like I just gotta be in class for it to be fine. But no. But I also it was also, choosing the path I did, but that's not part of this topic. But yeah, that's, it kind of has to take God to kind of intercede sometimes, or like other people that come in, like Daniel had advised Nebuchadnezzar, like, you should turn away and stuff. So maybe there's people in your lives that have told you, kind of take a step back, or maybe they've opened your eyes to like your actions, or like what they've seen change. So yeah, that's that. And to kind of end off, like going back to what our strength comes from at the end of the day is through God, and like in all those hardships. So in 2 Corinthians 12:10, it says, "That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties, for I am weak, then I am strong." So in the book, she says like, oh, don't just stay thinking like, oh, I'm weak, or going around saying I'm not nothing, but just acknowledging that where our strength comes from and where everything we have comes from. Because I felt like, for me, that kind of went away, where I was like, this is coming easy. And at the end of it all, I was like, well, I didn't do it by myself. Like, I couldn't have done it by myself, because then I remember who lets me wake up and all that stuff. So just remembering that we're not above everybody else, and we're not above God, especially because, He is our creator. He's the one that we need to submit to, and remember that all the blessings that we have in our lives comes from Him, not, from our own strengths. Because even though we worked for it, He allowed us to either A, have the job, or have the ability to do all those things. So just being mindful of where that strength comes from. And next week, we'll be talking about resolving conflict next week.